We have confirmation from the head of digital assets at DTCC that their first priority is to tokenize the $100 trillion of assets they have under custody. We have a massive XRP Treasury organization announcement in Evernorth with some of the obviously biggest players in the XRP ecosystem joining in support. We have the head of Quant, Gilbert Verdian, talking about how all of these banks and central banks are through with the proof of concept phase and ready for the operational phase. We had a major AWS outage across crypto and blockchain over the past day and a half or so, but some of the networks that have decentralized themselves have not been affected with this. I might as well hop right in because this is going to be kind of too much to get into the weeds with, and I want to try to make this about 10 minutes. First off, this is Nadine Chakar. She is the head of DTCC Digital Assets. Huge shout out to James Rule at Rule XRP. I'm sure most of you guys follow him. If not, do so. He is an OG in the XRP space. But listen to what the head of DTCC's Digital Assets says, first and foremost, about what's up with DTCC, and you can tell where their priorities lie. Let me mute my mic. Don't get echo.
So what are DTCC's latest initiatives then in the digital asset space?
Oh, we're busy doing a lot of cool stuff. First thing is our aspiration right now to tokenize all $100 trillion in custody that we have. That requires a fair level of cooperation, collaboration with our regulators, with our market participants, and really trying again to export some of these standards that have served the U.S. market so well for decades to ensure.
First priority is to tokenize the $100 trillion in assets that DTCC manages. Did I say 3 C's, 2 C's? And this is right in alignment with some of the patents that we've found DTCC putting out. Obviously, these patents are broad, so make sure you guys understand that when these entities file patents like this, they tend to try to capture all networks. However, this patent specifically mentioned these networks. We also know DTCC has deep integrations with Chainlink, but you've got essentially Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRPL, Hedera. I think one of them is Bitcoin Cash, Tron, and some others. I should actually mention as a sidebar, I found another DTCC patent, which was kind of an update to this, where it just generalized it and didn't mention any of these networks at all. This is much more recent, I would say, over the past month. But this is really interesting because this looks like this was an acquisition from the SEC currency patent, and DTCC acquired SEC currency a couple of years ago. Essentially, they're continuing this, and it's about tokenization of all the kind of global assets with this hierarchy of wallet and key management that DTCC is trying to put through that essentially allows them to maintain control while, tokenizing all these assets, which is pretty crazy. Interoperate across public blockchains, et cetera, et cetera. But wild to see the head of DTCC mentioning that. First priority essentially to tokenize $100 trillion in assets. It just goes to show how early we are. I mean, again, I just like beating a dead horse at this point in time, but we have $30 billion in assets tokenized right now, and she's talking about $100 trillion. So you do the math. Evernorth to go public with over $1 billion in gross proceeds. It's a newly formed Nevada corporation enabling XRP adoption at institutional scale, announcing a public launch and the execution of a business combination agreement. And this transaction is supposed to raise over $1 billion in gross proceeds, including $200 million from SBI, investments from Ripple, RippleWorks, Pantera Capital, Kraken, GSR, participation from Chris Larson, I think $50 million or $50 million worth of XRP. So hopefully not too much impact as far as XRP price in the short term. But the whole purpose of this is to provide investors with a simple, liquid, and transparent exposure to XRP through a publicly listed vehicle. Evernorth seeks to grow XRP per share over time by participating in institutional lending, liquidity provisioning, and DeFi. Essentially, they're trying to build like the biggest XRP treasury entity in the world, which is, I would imagine, kind of like the answer to MicroStrategy from the Bitcoin standpoint, which is pretty interesting. Ashish Birla leaving the Ripple board of directors from what I saw earlier today, and now the CEO at Evernorth. I believe David Schwartz announced on Twitter today or yesterday that he's going to be an advisor of this. And yeah, for anybody that is in any ecosystem, it doesn't matter if it's XRP or not. I think we want to see similar things to what goes on in Bitcoin with some of the other ecosystems and native digital assets within those ecosystems that we care about as well. And this looks to be something similar along those lines, which is huge. Interestingly enough, I do believe that some of the native network features may be utilized within Evernorth as well. So you've got vet, obviously. If you don't follow at vet_x0, easily probably top 3 or 4 community accounts to follow on the XRP ledger, and he kind of bridges the gap between what's going on at the protocol level and influencers and everybody in between. But he certainly has knowledge about the ecosystem, and he posts what impact this might have. Number one, institutional lending, XLS 65 and 66, bringing vaults and a lending protocol onto the XRP ledger natively, and Evernorth could potentially borrow against the $1 billion they raised to earn yield. Usage of compliance tools, liquidity provisioning, DeFi yield opportunities, validator data participation, DeFi integration, and market development. You see SBI's announcement as well. So gigantic news in the XRP ecosystem. All right, UK Finance launches live tokenized sterling deposits, how Quant is powering 3 transformative use cases. You guys can go and read through this entire kind of article by Gilbert here, but what I wanted to focus on is this, and this is from I'm going to mispronounce that, Demanencore. Maybe I got that right. But very interesting because Quant, CEO Gilbert essentially saying that the banks have moved past the testing phase. They're ready for the operational phase. Let me mute my mic.
I think 5 years ago we first started. And we did a lot of work to prove the infrastructure is fit for purpose. It's capable for transacting value. It's capable for institution-grade adoption. And the work that we did was around netting settlement between banks and doing that on blockchain as a potential stablecoin. So, we've done a lot of work in that space since 5 years ago. And what we're seeing is that experimentation phase of blockchain has stopped from banks, from institutions, from central banks. They've been experimenting. They understand the capability. They know what use cases are possible, but they also understand the value of blockchain, because what they're implementing is a new infrastructure, and this doesn't happen often. I mean, it's not often you create a whole bank and a financial system and a payment infrastructure. It only happens every 30 years. So what we're seeing is they've seen opportunity to implement DLT, to implement blockchain for the transformation of financial services, the transformation of finance, of money, of value. And using that infrastructure, they've understood that it lowers cost first.
Pretty wild. You essentially have Gilbert saying, and this isn't just from Quant's standpoint, this is just what he's saying, what Quant is seeing. And obviously they work with a lot of these entities, let alone the tokenized sterling deposits. They were part of the regulated liability network in the UK. They were shortlisted for the European Central Bank's digital euro participants, alongside some of the Bank for International Settlement trials and all sorts of stuff, right? We all kind of know how many things Quant's involved with. But it's the same stuff that we've been saying, and it's the same stuff that you can see if you look into it. Essentially, all these banking entities are ready to move out of the proof of concept phase, at least in certain portions of what they're doing, into kind of the operational phase. I think we saw either somebody from the European Central Bank or the UK saying that just a few months ago as well, and it's pretty apparent that's what's happening. But I mean, I think it's massive for him to say essentially what we've been saying, which is this is new infrastructure. Like, they are converging, like the traditional financial system, the banking system, the global banking system is essentially converging with the digital asset ecosystem, distributed ledger, blockchain technology, etc. All right, major AWS outage. This was yesterday. Amazon Web Service caused widespread disruption to major platforms, including Coinbase, Snapchat, Roblox, My wife was trying to watch something on Hulu yesterday and was like, why is Hulu down? We were trying to watch the second version, the not the Jack Nicholson, The Shining that Stephen King hated, but the one that was made in the 90s, which is like production value not quite as high, but supposedly more true to the book. The book is awesome, by the way. I've read The Shining like a couple of times. Regardless of what you think about Stephen King, I think he has some pretty good books. But major AWS outage. Now, what's interesting here is like a lot of people that get into crypto don't realize that a lot of like the infrastructure of a lot of crypto networks pretty much depends, and especially some of these applications, some of like the platforms that we use, they depend on cloud servers and AWS and all this stuff. Now, what I will say is there's networks that are decentralized enough or built on decentralized enough infrastructure where they haven't had impact. You have Brady Gentile from Hedera ecosystem, previously in marketing at Hedera itself, and now head of kind of Bonzo Finance, which is the biggest DeFi protocol on Hedera. Basically saying major AWS cloud outage observed today where decentralized layer 1 and layer 2 networks with an over reliance on, and he says it's decentralized like this, on AWS for node operations experienced downtime. Hedera did not. And you can see hosting providers, and this, I don't know if this is current or, okay, this is 2023. So decentralized even back then. But I thought it was a pretty cool post and definitely worth sharing. It's something to note. And not only Hedera, obviously, but you've got Vet essentially saying, again, give Vet a follow for XRPL ecosystem content, that the XRP ledger remained up as well. And also one thing that I would note, and I'll give a shout out to the No BS crypto account, because I was thinking about this today too. If you guys aren't aware, Definity and Internet Computer, the whole point of Internet Computer and Definity is to not have to rely on cloud infrastructure. And to stand up infrastructure kind of in and of itself and host things directly on chain and X, Y, and Z. And like the node operators to essentially run their own infrastructure too out of ICP. But I was surprised because I looked at the Definity account and I didn't see them post about it. But he tackles it right here. When AWS goes down, so does much of the world of tech. But it didn't. ICP ecosystem, no AWS, no middleman, everything on chain. So yeah, interestingly enough, and I'm sure that there's a lot other ecosystems. I'm pretty sure, let me see if I got it here. I think Chainlink, we wrote about Chainlink. Let's see if I can reload this. Yeah, Chainlink shows unmatched resilience during major cloud outage. So Chainlink as well, maintain 100% uptime during major cloud outage. Protecting 100 billion in DeFi markets, ensuring. So this is something to definitely note. Which networks stayed up? I found this as well. Ripple's post-settlement comeback gains traction with Middle East expansion. Do a little bit of due diligence in this. If you look into this, this is a lot more about the valuation of Ripple from what I found, but I still thought it was pretty cool. I stumbled across it today when I was doing some research, and actually does like some comparisons, XRP versus Ripple, business model, scale growth, all this stuff. But I didn't dive too deep into the weeds with this, but it had a lot of stats and all this other stuff. So I did think it was at least interesting enough to share with you guys. But this is on PM Insights. It was posted October 13th, so very recent. Gives you some takeaways, et cetera, et cetera. And I found ACI Worldwide, a document on crypto payments. Nothing crazy, but I did want to mention the stats. Always try to find these kind of bigger systems integrators or tech integrators or kind of middlemen between the crypto space and the traditional space, and ACI Worldwide, certainly one of those. Some OGs that remember all the old Ripple deep dives certainly probably remember some of the stuff we found about ACI Worldwide. But 14% of American adults own some form of crypto, according to a 2025 poll. That is nothing. And you have to imagine too, you have to remember, like, just because people maybe own a little bit of crypto doesn't mean that they know anything about crypto. And that could mean as little as $20 or $30, which is like, that's why I say, I think a lot of these numbers are skewed, because like the people that watch probably this channel a lot are like super crypto savvy, have been here for a while or whatever. And, I've been here for years too. And I don't think that 14% of Americans are like that much into the weeds with crypto. I would say maybe 3 to 5%. And that might even be reaching. that are really deep in the weeds. That's why I'll just, for context, again, I think we're just very early still in 2025. I know that's hard to believe. It's just my belief. And it says it jumps to 25% for those aged 18 to 49. That's interesting too. So like one thing that I will look at randomly on like even this YouTube or whatever, like some of the analytics around like demographics of who's watching this content. I must be like really boring because 18 to 25-year-olds just do not watch this channel. I've got a lot of like kind of 26 to, the end of the road individuals, which I certainly am appreciative. I think a lot of the younger generation are like not really watching YouTube. I think they're probably on TikTok and Instagram and all these other things. But yeah, interesting. 25% age 18 to 49. And then last but not least, Coinbase acquiring Echo. This is the 8th, I think I read, acquisition by Coinbase this year. We don't even need to talk about how many acquisitions Ripple has had. I did that in a couple of videos ago. I would imagine we see more of this type of stuff. For those that watch this channel from 2020 and 2019 and on, what we saw in 2019, 2020, 1, 2, and 3 was a lot of kind of fintech mergers, fintech acquisitions, like outside of the realm of crypto. Kind of traditional entity acquisitions and mergers. And now we're starting to see some of the crypto ones, which is really interesting. I mean, even a few weeks ago, we mentioned from an investment standpoint, NASDAQ investing into Gemini as an exchange. So you're starting to see traditional firms invest into crypto firms. You're starting to see crypto firms acquire traditional firms. You're starting to see crypto firms acquire fintechs. I'm sure that you'll see over time some mergers. We know that Hedera essentially like absorbed, I can't remember if it was Casper or Casper Labs. I think it was Casper Labs. Like a year ago. So that I think is pretty interesting. But anyways, yeah, I think hearing the head of DTCC's digital assets saying that first and foremost, we're doing a lot of cool stuff, but our inspiration right now is to tokenize all $100 trillion in custody that they have. That is massive. Obviously, the XRP Treasury organization, like it literally says in this press release, the whole purpose is to buy XRP open market. So yeah, I think that, you see a quote here from Ashish Burla. Evernorth is built to provide investors more than just exposure to XRP's price as we capitalize on existing traditional financial or TradFi yield generation strategies and deploy into DeFi or decentralized financial yield opportunities. We also contribute to the growth and maturity of that ecosystem. This approach is designed to generate returns for shareholders of Evernorth while supporting XRP's utility and adoption. It's a symbiotic model. Our strategy is designed to align with the growth of the XRP ecosystem. I will say it is nice to see something in the past, and I know that there's always the anticipation that stuff has impact on XRP itself, but I think a lot of announcements we've seen over the past handful of months are directly correlated to Ripple USD or RLUSD. So it's nice to see just a straightforward XRP one, where we don't have to make assumptions or say, hey, when we get some regulatory clarity, or hey, there's going to be a cascade effect from the Ripple USD stuff into XRP. I think seeing just directly XRP related announcements is great. And yeah, so anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, I'll lead out with, Gilbert Verdian from Quant basically saying that these entities are moving from proof of concept to operationalization. And yeah, have a great one. And hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. And I'll talk to you guys when I talk to you. Thanks. Bye.